Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tunnel Vision, a show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Keely, Eure, joined by Ryan Abraham and Shotgun Spratling. We have a fun show for you tonight. We're going to break down last night's crazy come from behind victory for USC, the third in this wacky 2020 season. So we'll talk about that. USC is now 5-0, heading to the Pac-12 title game. They clinched that before USC even played UCLA, so no drama there, but there was a little drama on Saturday anyway. So we'll talk about the short week. USC plays at home. They're hosting the Pac-12 Championship on Friday, and then the early signing period starts on Wednesday. It's a wild week in store for everyone, guys, so we'll get into that. I'll tell you at the top, we're going to have another show on Wednesday. It'll be a palooza, a Tunnel Vision palooza of recapping early signing day and also previewing USC's matchup on Friday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That's going to be 7 on Wednesday, but guys, we have a lot to talk about. Another comeback, Pac-12 title game. Don't worry, be happy. We'll get into that. You can also call us 5124-TUNNEL. Give us your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. We love hearing from you guys. And then you can also tweet at us, #TunnelVision. And then we are live on all 3 platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. Put your comments, your questions. Shotgun and I will read them and put them up on the screen. So make sure you do that. We love hearing from you guys. But Ryan, I'm going to start with you, because you are the longest tenured reporter on the USC football beat.
I'm old, yes.
And you pulled rank. Woke up this morning to a column from you, and you were just like, you pulled the car over, and you're like, hey, USC fans, we're going to have a talk. We're doing this. And I think it's important, and that's why we're going to start the show with it, Ryan. So you had a column that said, message to USC fans, just enjoy it. Take it away, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a crazy game, and this was the first one I covered in person. It was very surreal. You know, in the Rose Bowl, we were in the north press box, so kind of different where the regular media would be. Everyone spaced out. Me and Keely kind of had our own little cubicle that was there. I did a couple of live broadcasts from there, pregame and at halftime, but there wasn't a press box announcer. There was a stadium announcer, but there's no people there. Maybe the most surreal thing was seeing that they played the national anthem, and you're like, there's only like workers around, like there's nobody there to like enjoy this, and so the whole day was kind of weird. And like Talanoa Hufanga steps in front and intercepts that pass, and the UCLA announcer on the stadium, he's not like quick to say anything. The guy on the sound isn't like booing or anything. He's just sort of dead, and you're like, wait, something amazing just happened, and there's like nothing, no reaction whatsoever. Now Shotgun was outside. I think he could hear the groans from the UCLA sideline, but we really didn't get that in the press box. It was just sort of like UCLA good plays, there would be like sound and stuff. For USC good plays, there wasn't. So it was definitely surreal. But it comes down to this. Like, if you went to USC, if you're a USC fan, what's important to you? And I think there's 2 important things. USC alumni, this has been talked about a long time. Like, the best feeling for a USC fan is beating Notre Dame. But the worst feeling for a USC fan is losing to UCLA. Beating UCLA doesn't necessarily mean it's the greatest feeling in the world, but losing to the Bruins is really terrible. I was around for that 8-game streak. I was working as an engineer at the time, and one of my coworkers would write up on this whiteboard every year that USC would lose another game to UCLA, and he'd just laugh and stuff. And those are you do not want to do that, because so many times UCLA's season comes down to beating USC. It's just not a great season, but they can salvage it by beating the Trojans. And USC usually has higher aspirations than that. But losing to UCLA is always terrible. The analogy I gave in there is if you're walking into the Trader Joe's, you're going into the grocery store, and you're a UCLA fan for the whole rest of the year now that USC won. He sees you over there in a USC shirt. He's probably going to avoid you. You're over in the produce department. He's going to walk over and pick something from the frozen fruit aisle or the wine aisle or something. Just kind of avoid the USC guy because he don't want to hear about it. But he's going to think about that Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown catch. He's going to think about Tyler Vaughn's making a play on a ball and coming down with it, and USC not going for the run, going for the win, and not going for the touchdown to cover the spread even. So that's going to be in all of UCLA's fans' heads for the next 365 days. And I've just seen too many Trojan fans that were, well, but Clay Helton's still the head coach, and if we were playing a good team, and, well, they had too many mistakes, and we were down by 18 points, and just kind of the whiny stuff. And look, I'm not going to dispute all of that is true. But I think at one point you just have to push it all aside. You don't have to be super excited that you're 5-0. You don't have to be excited it's an undefeated season and you're playing for the Pac-12 Championship. But you beat UCLA. You don't have to hear about it. I mean, if Chip Kelly beats Clay Helton and you're like, oh, see, here's all the reasons to fire him, all that kind of stuff. But you got to hear it from your friends, at their water cooler, whatever it is. I was getting texts from UCLA people like during the game, and it's like, dude, I'm working, first of all. But there's like they're all over the thing, and they're like, getting on you. Just remember those moments of losing to UCLA. Remember 13-9. What was that like? Those things are all terrible for USC fans. So all I was asking everyone is, we understand. You don't think Clay Helton's a championship coach. You don't think this is a real season. USC hadn't beat anybody with a winning record. They made all kinds of mistakes, blah, 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 blah. We get all that. It's all true. Just put that away for a while. Just shelf it and go, damn, just beat the Bruins where they're down by 18 points, and it was 52 seconds left, and USC got the ball, and not only kicked a field goal, but freaking put a touchdown on them, and just – because it's not just, remember 15-0? Do you remember what that was like? The 2011 Lane Kiffin get Rick Neuheisel out of there? That's sort of like a shot to the head death. Like, it's just over. Like, it's just done. You know what's going on. This was more of a, like you're watching Saw, and the guy, and it's like, you're someone's like, on a rack, and they're about to be tortured and killed, and somehow they flip the script and they get the guy that's torturing them, and it's like UCLA thinks, oh, we got the Trojans down, we're gonna beat them. They're already celebrating, they're popping champagne and all this stuff, and all of a sudden, boom, it comes back, and then USC scores in the fourth quarter, and then UCLA is like, oh man, but then UCLA comes down and kicks a field goal. You're like, all right, we got them now. Now that knocked the wind out of their sails. 52 seconds left, and again, it's just like this demoralizing. That's the worst kind of loss, right? When you think you're going to win, and you have victory in your grasp, and it just gets snatched away. And that's what USC did to UCLA. Your arch rival, the team you hate to lose to. So that's all I'm saying, USC fans. I should have thought this out before I went on this rant. That's all I'm saying, USC fans. Just be happy that you beat UCLA. Forget all the Clay Helton stuff, at least for a couple of days.
There you go. Well done, Ryan, for your monologue on that front. And I think it's a good point because this season has been crazy. 2020 has been crazy for everyone involved. This team had to stay disciplined. They didn't get to go home for Thanksgiving. They've been living around USC's campus while every other student has been home or wherever else. This is a sacrifice to play college football in 2020. And so I think this is an important message to be like, hey, it was a nice win if you're a USC fan. Talented players made talented plays. You also had some veteran guys get their moment. Tyler Vaughn's the Pasadena native. Vavai Malapai running super hard every chance he got. It was nice to see this for this USC team that has tried very hard in 2020.
Yeah.
Shotty?
I agree that fans should enjoy this one. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that was not clean. But think about if you're a UCLA fan today. Think about how much pain you're in right now. Not only do you have to live with it for another year, you can look and say, "Oh, how are we losing to Clay Helton?" If that's the way you want to look at it too, as a UCLA fan. But think about all the chances they should have won this game. How many chances they gave USC? The 3rd and 10, and they jump off sides and also get a pass interference. 3rd and 10, and back-to-back jump off sides and give USC a first down. They give USC that extra time. You decide to kick it to them. You haven't kicked it to them all day. You decide to kick it to them. 56-yard return. Why are you playing man coverage, when USC needs to at least 10 yards? Why are you playing man coverage on the outsides with single high safety? 4th and 1, what are you doing? Just what are you doing? Why is your best running back not in the game? This is like a Reggie Bush not being in the game type of situation when you put a true freshman in there versus Demetri Felton. Everyone in the UCLA, watching from home is going, why is this guy in there? Why? And he, doesn't see the hole, misses it, and Hunter Echols makes a very nice play. USC gets to stop there. if you're a UCLA fan, you're going, why are we not blocking 99 ever? He's really good. He's really good over there. Why do we not block him?
That was a strange strategy. That's true.
True. And there's just so many things. Just think about if you were on the other side and watching this game. And, if you can't enjoy the fact that USC won and that they came back and all thing because of Clay Helton, just imagine how much more dreadful today would be if you're on the other side. And at least enjoy the pain that your rival is feeling. So there should be some joy from USC fans. If you can't find it in the team and, because of Clay Helton, then at least find it in your rival's pain, because that's what a rivalry is all about. And it's just really disappointing. I said this on Instant Analysis last night that there weren't fans in the stands for that game, because that would have been an epic one for the rivalry. The teams don't have to be great to create a great game, and last night was a tremendous game. Just the back and forth. There are plenty of mistakes, but the mistakes played into making that game so great. So it was fun to cover and fun to be there for that one. USC finds a way, and that's what this team has done. It's taken those last second, fourth quarter comebacks, but they've done it, and now they're in position to win a Pac-12 championship. And there's going to be discussion of them in the college football playoff. Now, they shouldn't be in the college football top four, but they should be being discussed. And that's all you can ask for at this point, after starting the season late and not looking great in some of the wins. But you're going to be discussed, and that's just more attention there's going to be for recruits that are going to watch the college football playoff show on Tuesday and they hear that USC name over and over in this discussion, because it will be brought up. So there's a lot of positives that you can take away from it. So don't focus on the negative. Find something positive to think about.
USC, okay, would they get crushed by Ohio State tomorrow? Yes. But they're going to be talked about, like Shotgun said, because you're undefeated and you're the potential to be the Pac-12 champ. You got to win the game against Washington or Oregon, whoever they play on Friday, but you're going to be at least in the discussion now. So that's a good thing. And look, if you're a UCLA fan and you wake up and you go, if I told you Keaton Slovis would go 30 of 47 for 344, 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson would go 30 of 36 for 364 yards, 4 touchdowns and 2 picks, and UCLA would outgain USC 549 to 444, you'd be like, yeah, I feel pretty good about my chances in this one. And no, it's just, that's one of those things, just UCLA outplayed USC for most of this game, and USC, for the third time this year in 5 games, came back in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. Yep. That just doesn't happen very often. So enjoy it, people. Come on, it's fun.
Exactly. Someone said, am I watching the right show? We're very positive tonight, but I think it's just for USC fans, you guys get a little doom and gloomy, and we had to bring the reality check a little bit. At least Ryan acted like a father and had to pull the car over a little bit.
And also, it should be pointed out that 2020 is such a weird year that USC didn't play great against Washington State. They didn't run the ball. They didn't have offensive linemen for 2 weeks. Those things make an impact. No one wants to talk about them. No one wants to go, oh, what happened in the summer? Were you able to practice or not? Those things have an impact, and USC is overcoming them. Now, it's not the prettiest thing. They're not a great team. They're probably a good to very good team. They're not a great team, and there's only a couple of great teams every year. There's only a couple this season. And there's going to be a lot more just okay or good teams this year than anyone getting in that conversation, just because of all the different elements that have come into 2020 with not practicing, with kids being quarantined, with position groups being, all those type of things, those play into it. The coaches in college football already complain about how limited the time is that they have with players in a normal year. Oh, we only have 20 hours a week. In the NFL, they get as much time as they want. So it's that much more difficult to install certain things or, teach up certain things. So they're already complaining to begin with, and now you get hit with a bunch of different stuff this year. USC is overcoming those things. So again, it's not the prettiest, but they're doing what needs to be done to win, and they've played themselves into a conference championship game, and they've done well enough. They're the only team in the conference that's undefeated, so they will host that game. Now, who they're going to play, that's still a big question.
Yeah, Clay Helton said after the game they're preparing for both Oregon and Washington right now. Washington still has to clear the 14-day quarantine. That's TBD right now. There's been reports that they might decide in a couple days, so they'll know at least soon, hopefully, for USC's sake. But Clay Helton pointed out, we're preparing for 2, and both Oregon and Washington get to prepare for only us. So it's an unfair advantage in that sense in a short week. So, Ryan, I was talking to some people about this. What's the incentive for USC to play in the Pac-12 Championship Game? I know that's a little bit of a hot take, but, I mean, they're 5-0. They're the only ones in the Pac-12. who's undefeated right now.
I mean, there's a possibility where they just cancel it. I mean, we saw, was it Arizona and, Cal, that game got canceled. I mean, they're bringing, the interesting thing they're doing, so USC and Washington are scheduled to play on Friday. They're bringing in Oregon and they're bringing in Colorado to play at the Coliseum on Saturday. So the backup game is going to happen in the Coliseum. So Oregon's got to come to LA and Colorado has to come to LA. If either of the two teams bow out on Friday, they have a backup right there. So that's kind of interesting. I'll give them some props for that one. But there's some scenarios where it doesn't happen. They just name USC the champion. But I think for Clay Helton, it's important. And one of the things I didn't mention about in the column, and I think this is an important part, if you come out and just say, you know what, that was awesome. We beat UCLA. Woo! And you're a USC fan and you're like excited about that. That doesn't mean you endorse Clay Helton as the head coach and you think he's going to be a championship coach. I'm just giving you permission to say, just enjoy the win without, even if you don't like who the head coach is, you can still enjoy the win. It doesn't count as an endorsement. And I feel like for Clay Helton, though, he does have to build up his resume with the USC fan base. And winning the Pac-12 South at 5-0 isn't going to be some feather in his cap that you come back, oh, you know what? He did go 5-0 that year. Winning the Pac-12, you beat an Oregon or so. You beat a Washington. You'd love to play, teams that you lost to last year, and you get some revenge on one of those teams. And you're recruiting against both those teams. I think all of these things are important for USC to play this game, but I think it's important for Clay Helton to sort of establish himself and all right, win the Pac-12, then you go to like a Fiesta Bowl or something, beat a Big Ten team there or whatever it is, and okay, what are you, 7-0? Are you going to say it's the greatest season in USC history? No, but you're like, okay, it could have certainly been a lot worse. That's going to build on 2021. And if you lose 3 games like Clay Helton does every year in 2021, then you're like, all right, so it's still not back. But going 7-0 would be significant. So I think you got to get those extra games in there if you can for Clay Helton. I think it's important for USC, especially if you get to play a team from the North that you're recruiting against in a lot of these battles.
Yeah.
And you also, just an extra data point in case all hell breaks loose in the rest of the college football playoff. There's been a lot of discussion on YouTube about, USC get killed by any team in the top 10. I'm like, really? That Notre Dame team, I think Notre Dame, I don't think they're vastly better than they were the last 2 years when USC lost to them by 3 points and 7 points? Is Iowa State, are they a dominant team? No. I mean, they lost to Louisiana Lafayette by 17 points. I know they've gotten better throughout the season, but I don't think that's a dominant team that would blow out USC. So I think USC could compete with several teams. So you want to get that data point just in case, because there's no real telling. Hey, you get to 6. What happens if a couple teams, they can't play in the playoff? No one's really discussed this about, are they going to push the playoffs back then? Because they've been so adamant about, we can't move the playoffs at all. Okay, well, what happens if a team gets, a virus outbreak and they can't play? Are you going to Team 5 and Team 6? Or are you just going to shut it down and say, well, we'll just declare the other team a winner? They get to advance? There's a lot of scenarios that, hey, you want to just be able to bump your way up a little bit further and further just in case. It's a weird year. It's a weird effing year is what I wanted to say, but I'm going to keep it PG.
Good job.
That you never know what's going to happen, so you want to play that game. Now, the bad thing for USC is you're preparing for 2 teams. They're preparing for you. Both of them will be preparing. Washington and Oregon will be preparing for USC. Maybe they'll sprinkle in a little Colorado just in case USC gets hit with a virus or something. But they're going to be preparing for USC. And then also, those 2 teams didn't play last week, so you're coming off a second short week. Yep. They're coming off of 2 weeks rest. Now, it's not rest where they're out there practicing every day and preparing for you for 2 weeks, but just the toll on the body is definitely a little bit different. Clay Helton talked about it this past week, the week they had off because of the missing the Colorado game. He said, we came out and looked really fresh in practice. It kind of ended up being like a bye week for them, and they were fresher when they came back to practice. So there are some disadvantages for USC in that. But an extra win, helps you, like you said, on the recruiting trail potentially. It could help with recruiting because you'll be higher ranked at the end of the season. All those things could, the small little things that could factor in.
So in relation to that, Oscar on YouTube had a question, and he said, please tell me how ESPN, it's their FBI, which is their football power index, has USC at number 4 with a 49.7 chance to make the playoffs, and Clemson at 45.5%. They have Alabama number 1, 99.3, Ohio State at number 2, 87.7%, and Notre Dame at number 3, 68.7%. Please explain. So he seems a little bewildered by that, as well as a lot of social media last night.
Yeah, you're going to have to ask ESPN because that makes no sense whatsoever. USC's coming in at number 15. If USC was already like number 6 or something and you were going to get some huge boost, the committee has shown they're not giving conference championships all kind of weight. I mean, we've seen Ohio State drop down, and they were up there, and they go down to 4, but they're not going to drop them out of the top 4 until they lose a game. USC would have to climb all the way back up there. There's just no way that is going to happen. So to say it was like 47, I mean, that makes absolutely no sense to me. So I would not put any stock into that. The important part is they will be talked about. That's all it's going to be. They will be talked about. They will not be in the college football playoff.
And why is that important, Ryan? For those asking.
Why is it important? Because the whole point is you want to be a nationally relevant program.
Yes.
And USC's been nationally irrelevant. They were on the stage for that Rose Bowl, but you start off 1-3. You still lost 3 games, and you get to the end. The next year, you end up losing 3 games, but you do a couple of them at the end, and it's just a little bit different, So I feel in this case, this is one of those things where you want to be nationally relevant. You win all your games. If you get an opportunity to play someone good, like Washington or Oregon, that's nice, but you maybe an Indiana team that's got 9-10 wins, something like that. That's going to be an even bigger deal. So, or I don't know, Indiana might be like 8-1 or something. I forget what they are, something like that. But yeah. I think the projection right now is to play Indiana in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, it is, according to ESPN. Shotty, do you have something to add?
You want to get the New Year's Six Bowl, and if USC wins, then they will get in. The percentages there, I think, are looking at strength of opponent. USC's playing a team that's not in the top 25, or I'm not sure exactly where Washington is, or will be in the college football playoff rankings this week. But versus Clemson is playing the number 2 team. Yep. So that's the big thing there, is strength. How does USC's was really high. I'm not surprised that it's similar to Clemson's, but USC's was still really high just because of how many teams they would have to jump. Now, ESPN's FPI could be expecting USC to take a big jump this week. Now, the college football rankings haven't come out this week, so we don't exactly know where USC is going into the Pac-12 Championship. So, they were 15 last week. If they make a jump up to 8 or something like that, because now they have that extra data point, that's what they've talked about so many times, like, just the data points. If USC wins next week and now they're 6-0, then they're in the same spot as Ohio State as far as number of games and whatnot. Then how are you going to say that USC is 10 or 15 spots different than Ohio State just because they haven't played as many? They're still undefeated. They're still a Power 5 team. There's never been an undefeated Power 5 team left out of the college football playoff. Obviously, this is way different this year. Yeah. But they could make a big jump this week, and then that gives them, a much better shot at something happening over the championship weekend.
You want to be talked about, you know? You want to be like if...
Also one thing to know is that this isn't a normal championship weekend where it's only, the first 5 or 6 teams are playing. Everyone's going to be playing, basically. So that gives you more opportunity for losses, and therefore your percentage goes up that you could jump up a bunch of spots.
Good point.
And Blanc Christoph on Periscope says, the FPI also had Penn State as a top 10 team when they were 0-3. So that's a great stat. I'm assuming it's true because it came from Periscope. Why would it not be true? But yeah, so that's kind of what some of those numbers are just. They're bunk. That's not real. It's not realistic.
But that's different, where they're ranked supposedly versus their percentage of getting into something.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we have callers in the queue, so let's go to them. Okay. First off is John from Glendora. Hello, you are live on Tunnel Vision.
Hey guys, my first time getting the call this year. It's John from Glendora. We just need to be happy, man. We really be happy about the win. It's beating UCLA, sticking a knife right into that field. That sounds good to me. Hey, it's 2020. Let's just say they do get in and run the table. It's 2020. Anything can happen. What if a team gets COVID and they get an automatic win? We have no idea. Let's just let it ride. Be happy. You get to watch football, guys.
It's a great point.
Yeah, he like you said, let it ride. I mean, I feel like you walked up to the table with $20, and now you're up to $300 or $400. You're like, I walked up with $20. Let's keep going. Just go for it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, John. We
That was a great call.
appreciate the
Thank you, John.
enthusiasm. Oh, and rehashing what we talked about at the top. We love our Glendora callers. I believe we have our buddy Bobby on the line. Bobby, before I even bring you up, remember to keep it short. That's all I'm going to say.
Not 8 points, Bobby.
You're live on Tunnel Vision. Hello.
I have 3 points, but I'm calling with a heavy heart. My father died last Sunday.
Oh my God,
Sorry
Bobby.
to hear that, Bobby.
Yeah, so in 1972, he took me to the Coliseum, 5 years old, watching Anthony Davis. So I have 3 quick points, of course. Number 1 is USC is 7-14. The record against the 5 teams they played was combined 7-14. 3 fourth quarter rallies against teams with a combined record of 4-10. I have not seen improvement from week 1 against Arizona State to week 6 against UCLA. And finally, the talent on this USC team, like, it's ridiculous. It so far outweighs the capability of the coaching staff. I am a pessimist. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby. Sorry for your loss,
Yeah,
first of all.
we're real sorry about that, Bobby. But that's great. It sounds like he was a great Trojan and got you started with your USC career back when you were 5 years old in 1972, seeing Anthony Davis. That must be some special memories. So I'm glad you have some good memories of your dad, and may he rest in peace. For your pessimistic stories, I said in my column, all those things are true. Like, USC hasn't beat a team that's been, has a 500 record. UCLA had one when they played, and they don't anymore. They're a pretty good team. I think USC has improved, though. I think the defense has got better. They had some tackling problems in the first half against UCLA, but I think they kind of shored a lot of that up. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson was really good. He was good against USC last year, and he was good against.
Let's hold on that. He
was-
threw the ball in the flats. He threw wide receiver screens.
He was 30 of 36
on wide receiver screens.
I don't care.
How many throws did he have beyond 3 yards? It was like 8.
How many times did Drake Jackson come at him unblocked, and he still got away and got the ball off and made
Because
plays?
It was a 2-yard throw
Well,
right
whatever.
here.
He did them. So whatever. That's not the point of this thing. We're gonna give him some credit. He was pretty efficient, even if he was just dumping the ball off. But the numbers were good. He didn't hurt UCLA all that much. He had as many interceptions as Slovis did. But I think you can say this team got better. But no one's saying this was a well-coached game. UCLA probably outplayed USC. USC has way better players than UCLA. Keely mentioned it. It's like great players making amazing plays. And it wasn't like, oh, this scheme was great. The Drake London, run over 7 UCLA Bruins, that wasn't some scheme thing. He got the ball, and then he just made some ridiculous play. And USC needed that to get sparked. They had nothing going on offense. And you have this uber athlete go out there and just take over and do it himself. And that's kind of the way USC's been winning a lot of times. You'd like it to be the scheme and everything kind of going behind it, and to back up the players a little bit. But that's really not how USC's DNA has been.
Well, that's what I said on Instant Analysis. I was talking to Chuck, and I was like, the way USC has played this season, it just doesn't seem sustainable. Like, you see ASU, and you're like, okay, well, hopefully they clean this up, because you can't play like this and go 5-0. And then you look up and they're 5-0. It's just like, how do they keep coming out of this with a win when it just seems like everything is not going their way?
Yeah.
Shotgun?
And part of my answer was that it helps the teams that you're playing are from the Pac-12 South. And
True.
They've given a lot of things to USC. Give USC credit for taking advantage, creating as many turnovers as they have, but also, you take advantage when a team is 3rd and 10 twice and they create penalties that give you a first down. Once creating back-to-back off sides to give you a free first down. So you got to take advantage of those situations. And USC has done a much better job the last couple of weeks of taking advantage of the opponent's mistakes. That was something we said at the beginning of the season that they didn't do well enough. But they've been punching the ball in on some opportunities in the red zone. Their red zone efficiency has been much better the past couple of weeks as well. So there's areas where they are improving. Are they playing to their 100% potential? No. And we haven't seen that in a long time for USC. Yeah. That's the thing that everyone is upset about. And I understand that.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize in this weird year to be thankful for some things. And one of them is the fact that USC is able to play, and they're finding ways to win. And they're doing that. Even when it doesn't seem sustainable, and it wouldn't be sustainable over a full season, I don't believe. But with a shortened season, you can make things happen, and USC so far has made them happen. Now, again, I said there's a lot of things that are stacked against them this week going up against either Washington or Oregon. And, that might be the time when, they run out of, last-minute magic. Who knows?
Who knows, indeed. Alrighty, we have one more caller in the queue. It's our buddy Hugo from South Central. Hello, you're live on Tunnel Vision.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you, Hugo.
Oh, okay. Look, hey, this one's for Keely. Keely, let me ask you this question. When Kobe was with the Lakers, did they ever tell him to stop shooting?
No.
All right, cool. Hey, you see my main man Shotgun over there? That's the GOAT. When he wants to keep talking, especially around rapid fire, hey, you got to keep letting him talk. That's the man right there. Okay? So, hey, Shotgun, can we fix this running game? Because if I feel like if we can fix this running game, I feel we can do even good in the playoffs. If we can't, I don't think we stand a chance. I'm just being honest, So I'm just trying to figure out if you think we can fix this running game. Other than that, yeah, the Pac-12 Championship is all good, but after that, I don't think it's going to go so well with us.
Yeah.
Recruiting might go, it'll be good for recruiting and all that, but after that, I mean, I just don't see us really making it happen in the college football playoffs. What's your opinion?
Hey,
Thank you.
Hugo, real quick before you hang up, where are you on stock neutral?
Yeah.
Where are you? Are you a stock neutral guy or no?
I'm sorry, you said what now?
Are you stock neutral? Do you like stock neutral or are you not? Like Shotgun's not a stock neutral fan, but Keely
Maybe
loves
Hugo
it.
doesn't know what you're talking about, Ryan.
Nah, I don't.
Okay, you got to listen to the Family Feud podcast. So that's a kind of about. I wanted to you kind of give a decisive blow on the Shotgun side for Keely, against Keely. So I was trying to give her a little win, but yeah, listen to the Family Feud podcast, then tell us about stock neutral.
There you go.
Thanks,
Shotty,
Hugo.
take it.
Talking about the run game, I thought USC's run game looked a lot better this game. They started really sluggish. I didn't like some of the play calls, but they were the entire game. I thought the offensive line played well. They didn't necessarily play great, but they played well. They kept Slovis. I think UCLA ended up with 3 sacks, but they were trying to do a lot of things to get to him. There was a lot of dropbacks, and they gave him plenty of time throughout the night. He wasn't under attack all the time like we've seen in some other games. So give them credit there for the pass blocking. They had, I think, 3 guys that had NFL grades in this game from the initial PFF, grading that they do for pass blocking. The run game, it was better. And I think part of that is getting your offensive linemen back and actually being able to practice the schemes you're going to go against. But they were creating some push. So the times when it really struggled early in the game and when the run game just sucked early was because there's been a lot of chatter about the running backs in the YouTube comments and about who's good and who's not. Like Stephen Carr was getting hit as soon as he touched the ball. The one time where he wasn't touched, he had an 8-yard run. I mean, it's something like that. That was the difference, and that's what started happening as the game progressed. USC was able to identify what UCLA was doing up front and started to be able to attack it, and they were getting push. So it was when they were blocking guys, when they were figuring out the scheme and having defenders in front of them, they were able to push them back, and that's something we haven't necessarily seen from USC much in the past. So I was actually noted that when I was rewatching the game today, I was like, oh my goodness, there's actually the line is going forward, and then that's the difference on those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 plays that you see where Vavai Malapai and Marquis Stepp, the one play that he was in for a 3rd and 1, he got stopped at the line of scrimmage, or he got stopped at the line, but the line was already a yard forward. So then he just fell forward after that, and he gained 3 yards on the play versus getting hit in the backfield and then trying to then get that extra 2 yards to get to the line of scrimmage and get the final yard. That's been the difference, and I think that I was actually a little bit optimistic from them in that what they did the back half of the game, the adjustments they made there. We'll see if it continues in the Pac-12 Championship game. But after having all the issues that they had with COVID and stuff and not being able to practice, I chalked up the Washington State game to that a little bit. Now, the bigger question is, does it become a trend from Utah to UCLA? And I thought USC, found some running game, and also give a lot of credit to Vavai Malapai and his vision. He was terrific as far as they were pushing the pile forward, and then he was finding where there was a hole and making the most of it, and he had some really nice runs in there for him.
Mm-hmm. How much of that was just individual effort? Because on my rewatch, it seemed like a lot of it was just Vavai making something out of nothing.
It's not like he was getting hit in the backfield every time, though.
Sure.
There was the one run that kind of got him going. The first one that they really popped off. I think it may have been the 19-yard run that he had, where he was running to his left, and the entire offensive line, instead of being straight, here's the line where it starts. There was room here for him to cut back. And that's because Liam Jimmons took the block, and he was 2 yards downfield, and Vavai did a great job. It was supposed to be a run on the left, but hey, he saw the cutback lane, and then he got upfield after getting past that initial line. So I think that they were doing some positive things. Can they build on it? It's late in the season to be needing to build on things, even though it's a short season. That's the issue for the offensive line. But there were some positive things. I don't understand the running back rotation. I haven't understood it all season, to be honest.
Yeah.
But Vavai was in there, and he did his thing, and he made the most of it. He did get injured later in the game. There's a lot of questions about his health. I didn't remember him being out at the very end, but I didn't remember him being
banged up,
either.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, he is often banged up as well.
Yeah, but this seemed different. Ryan, now
Yeah, we didn't get an update from Clay Helton. Usually we get one before, so that was canceled for 6 p.m. So we'll get to talk to Clay Helton tomorrow morning. Oh well, actually, what? Yeah, tomorrow morning. Yeah,
bright and early, 7:45. Ryan, on the other side of the ball, what did you make of this USC defensive performance? It seemed like just a lot of missed tackles, and that is something where if we were in practice, I feel like we'd be able to be like, well, they took a little bit off, and so you can't say exactly, but I was just curious about the missed tackles in the beginning.
Yeah, I was talking about that on the halftime tunnel vision we did. Been doing those, and we did one from the Rose Bowl. Keely made some cameo appearances in there too. Since we haven't been able to watch practice, it's hard to say. People were asking, like, have they backed off? Are they not hitting? Because they got all the offensive linemen back. So we were looking in, and everyone was back. The backups were in, all the starters. Like, you had everyone back. It didn't have to be a 7-on-7 week like it was leading up to Washington State. But was it? We're like, well, it worked then. We're going to do it again. It kind of seemed like it. It seemed like they needed to hit a little bit. And I thought, like Shotgun said, I thought UCLA was doing a good job with these, the quick passing game. But it was working. It wasn't just the fact that it was a short pass, but they were able to make a guy miss. They could get a good block by a wide receiver and break people and really pick up, good yardage on first down on some of those things. When they weren't really, Demetric Felton wasn't getting going early on, but it was mostly DTR kind of throwing the ball, in the flats and things like that and make it, moving the chains. And I thought they did a really good job with it. But the tackling was definitely an issue. There was definitely some broken coverages, some opportunities when momentum would shift against USC. I forget what the turnover was, but then they hit the tight end over the middle for that long bomb.
Yeah.
Was that a Slovis interception?
That was the tip ball off of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Terrific play by Stephen Blaylock making the one-handed interception.
Yeah, so it looks like USC's, you get that momentum, you score the touchdown, and you're coming back. I think USC got a stop and stuff too, and then it's just like 14 points the other way. You can't have those kind of broken coverages like that. You let a tight end streak down the middle all alone. That's an easy throw for DTR, and that was not in the flat, Shotgun. That was just over the top.
That was one of the few throws that he made downfield, and that was something because if you notice in the second half, first half, that was all UCLA needed to do was, okay, USC's going to bring pressure, dump it in the flats, and make them make tackles, and they weren't making tackles. And so when USC started making tackles in the second half, started making some adjustments, then that's when UCLA had to change things up. That's when they had to start throwing it downfield more. That play right there, that was actually Pro Football Focus gave the credit for that one, or discredit, I don't know, the blame for that one to Raylan Goforth on that coverage. So he was chasing Greg Dulcich on the play and then allowed him to split through the middle. You can't really see it on the broadcast view exactly what happened on the play, but they were able to find the split right there and attack it. And USC has struggled against UCLA's tight ends. They've killed them for like 3 or 4 years in a row now, it seems like. So
Caleb Wilson started that,
I was about to say. Yeah.
Caleb Wilson, former USC tight end Caleb Wilson. Yes, but
Revenge.
You also had Devin Asiasi had a big game last year, so they've been able to find some holes there. Chip Kelly, in his time at UCLA, that's one of the things he's exploited against USC's defenses. So that was one of the areas where they had some success, but USC, outside of that one play in the second half, they locked things up a lot better following in the last, I don't know, what was it, 15 plus 9, 10 minutes of the game. And that first drive wasn't really great either in the second half, but the last 25 minutes or so of the game, they gave it that one play, and that was about it.
On the whole, Shotgun, what have you seen from Todd Orlando and his halftime adjustments so far this season?
I mean, I thought that they've had some great adjustments. Later in the game, They were doing some three-man rush and then, using a spy against DTR to keep him from getting out. So they were trying some different things there. I think he can really trust those cornerbacks to play one-on-one. And so it allows him to do a lot of different things, whether it be that, the pressures that they've been bringing and stuff. And then Talanoa Hufanga is just so versatile, and he just seems like he's always in the right place. So he missed a couple tackles in this game too. He was not off the hook on that. Actually, it's surprising. I'm going off Pro Football Focus's grades and their tackles and stuff just because they chart it, and I didn't have time to do all that already. But they had 14 missed tackles, which actually isn't an exorbitant amount. It's way more than you want. You want to have 6 to 8 usually is what the good teams usually average, but 14 is not exorbitant. USC usually has 10 to 12. So it seemed like a lot more than that. And I think part of that is because a lot of them were in space.
Yeah.
So it's one-on-one tackle. Can you get the guy down? And a lot of times it was, instead of a 0-yard game, it became a 7 or 8 yard game. And USC really stuffed the run game in the second half, except for maybe one run up the middle that Felton had. And that put UCLA in longer field position. There were a lot of 2nd and 12s and situations like that where then it changes what they can do after struggling on the first down plays.
Now, I'm switching back a little bit because I forgot to add, first time for USC in the third quarter scored a touchdown.
Woohoo!
That change of pace there, so I had to mention that. But on special teams, Gary Bryant Jr., we've heard about it all preseason. That was something where we knew that he could be dynamic in that unit. And when USC needed it the most, Gary Bryant shows up.
That was pretty special. Obviously, you need a spark when there's 52 seconds left, and he actually caught the ball on the right sideline. And I was like, just fair catch it, give Slovis a chance to throw it down the field. Yeah, that's what I wanted. And then there was pretty good coverage, it looked like. And I think there was a couple good blocks that USC had, but Gary Bryant Jr. really made a nice play getting through there. I mean, he easily could have been stopped before the 20 and wasn't, and obviously gets the big return there. So that was, as far as sparks go, when you only have, you have under a minute left and you can get it all the way out to midfield. How many times have you seen these 2-minute offenses or, 1-minute offense and they throw a pass for 4 yards and they don't get out of bounds? You're like, what were you doing? And you wasted all this time to already be across midfield and have, all that time left. It was pretty special, and it gives you an opportunity to take a shot. And Tyler Vaughns can go up in double coverage and go up and make that play, and it gives Slovis the opportunity to say, we're not going to run it and kick a field goal. I'm going to throw it to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that really sparked a lot. It gave USC a great opportunity. The playbook opens way up when you're across midfield as opposed to being on your own 20.
Mm-hmm. Shoddy?
I'm just curious if Ryan was going to ask after the game, do you think you should have fair caught that if they would have ran it out and got to the 20 instead of the plus side there? But it definitely changed the ability to play call. Not necessarily that whether USC could take a shot there, but it changed what UCLA was doing because they actually showed a blitz and then kind of dropped back into a zone coverage underneath, but left one high safety with man-to-man coverage on the outside, and that's money for USC. And terrific catch by Tyler Vaughns going up and making the play. He and Keaton Slovis, they attacked that matchup several times, and they connected on a couple, and he overthrew a couple. That one, he left it up there, gave him a chance, and he threw it short of the safety, so the safety wasn't able to get over there in time to make the play either. But I think UCLA changed what they were doing, thinking, USC may try to run it, and USC maybe they were about 10 yards out of field goal range, and they'll probably try to throw one of these short passes that they do a lot in this offense. And so that maybe had impacted their defense, what they would have called in that play, rather than just having, if it would have been on the 25-yard line, they're dropping a bunch of guys back. There's going to be multiple guys back there. You're not going to be able to have that opportunity for a one-high look like that. You'll have a cover 3 look or something, so there's multiple players. But USC took advantage, and it all started with that special teams play. Earlier in the game, they got a special teams play, just rushing the kicker and the punter and him being too slow to get it off. That kind of sparked them a little bit as well. So the special teams continues to make a couple plays every game that they aren't always as impactful as this week's 2 were, but they're doing some small things every week that are helping USC out.
And not taking away from the team. That's the biggest difference from what we've seen in prior seasons. Yes, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Real quick, I got to give a shout out to my boy, Tyler Vaughns, his homecoming in the Rose Bowl.
Wait. Joe DeMillo wanted to say, you all never give Tyler Vaughn some love. He's a stud. And
He's
I wanted
my
to just
boy.
be like,
I think John missed the beginning because he also asked if we were doing a preview of early signing day, or we're talking about early signing day. So
Yeah.
we covered all of that, Tyler Rollins and early signing day at the top, John. But yes.
But you guys have known he's been my guy. 8
Yep.
catches, 128 yards. I mean, that diving catch in the end zone was pretty special. Was it 38 yards out? I mean, just full out laying out. That was amazing. And really, I mean, it could be the play of the game. I mean, how many better catches have you seen live than what he did to go up between those two defenders and haul it in inside the 10-yard line? I mean, that was pretty special. So he was showing out. It would have been great if he had all his family from Pasadena there, but obviously they can't be there.
Yeah.
But little props for TV there. It was great.
Because he's flown under the radar. There's been so much love for Drake London and Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, but he's been consistent for USC over the course of his time as a Trojan. So for him to have that senior moment in the Rose Bowl was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
and also, if this is the end of his USC career, he could potentially leave after this year. He could potentially come back if he wanted, but not much left to prove there. But if this is the end of his career, he got them family bragging rights. Because little brother John's on the other side, and you don't want to go 0-1 against little brother and then not be able to come back or not play against him again. He had a huge game. Mama Vons was watching from home. She was super excited about the game. Getting to see both of her sons play, but unfortunate that the families weren't there. This would have been a special time for them to see two sons playing against each other, but didn't happen. But Tyler, making a big impact in his final game in Pasadena.
We had a question on Periscope from
Sure.
George. Was the second half success more about coaching adjustments or better execution as it seemed?
I think it's a little bit of both. Keaton Slovis blamed himself for the offense not really going early and then getting clicking a little bit later. I didn't think it was a ton that it was on him, but USC there was always something, whether it be a penalty that backs them up. There's
Yeah.
a holding penalty on the first drive. When they pick up a third down, it just seemed classic USC. 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of thing, and they couldn't really put it all together. And then in the second half, things started rolling a little bit, and the run game contributed to that. The run game had a huge impact, and it got brought up in the YouTube chat as well about Vavae Malapai's touchdown run, how Andrew Voorhees didn't actually block anybody on that. The guy that he potentially could have blocked, or he may have, it was confusing to see exactly who he was supposed to block since he didn't block anyone. But there was a defender that comes right through, but was headed straight to Keaton Slovis because there's no way USC's running the ball in 3rd and 5, are they? Oh, wait, where'd that guy go? That guy's got the ball. What happened? So he was completely fooled by the fact that USC ran the ball and ran right by Vavae Malapai and let him go, and then Vavae breaks a tackle and then works his way into the end zone for the touchdown. So that's the difference when you run the ball. Now the next drive, that guy's got to stop and hesitate for half a second. And if that half a second is the difference in Keaton Slovis getting a pass off, then that's the impact the run game has to have.
Mm-hmm. We actually have a caller. It's our buddy Dave, I believe, from Iowa. Hello, you're live on television.
Hi, Tunnel Vision. Once back again, and I'd like to second what Hugo said. You got to make Shotgun happy, or else he's just gonna go to ESPN there, Ryan.
Oh gosh,
It's the second week in a row we're getting this stuff.
But
ESPN's got to give me a job offer first, guys.
Yeah.
but two things I wanted to two things I wanted to say was since you guys will have a signing day show, is Gerard going to come out of his shell and show up? That's one, and two, what do you guys think of if you want to say immature celebration by the USC players? I mean, I would expect a little more class from this kind of rivalry situation, especially the way USC came back. Love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Dave. First, we could probably, Gerard's not going to come into the studio all the way from Chino Hills, but we might be able to pull him up remotely. It might be worth just to get a few thoughts on him. We'll see. I mean, he's
no promises. That's
no
all
promises,
I'll say.
but that's a good idea. I think that's something that we could definitely do. I'll try to work on that, the next couple of days because it's coming up pretty quickly. What did you guys think about the as far as the celebration stuff and all that?
Meaning, is he talking about the end of the game?
Yeah.
I don't really have an issue with it. It's a rivalry game. I thought there was more chippiness against Notre Dame last year than against UCLA at the end of the game. Right, Shotgun?
I'm trying to remember Notre Dame. Oh, that was at halftime.
Yeah, at the half, yeah.
Yeah, where there was a full-on
Like
everyone
Jay
on the
Tufele getting
field.
into it, yeah.
Yeah, it's every time when people are like, we should have more class than that. Well, you can have more class than that, but you got to remember these are 18 to 21-year-old kids, and when things get heated, they get heated. It's college-age kids. Every college-age kid should have more class. I agree. Just in general.
Hey, I was
Just in
classy as a
general.
college student.
No,
Shotgun.
you needed some more class as well. But it happens. And in a rivalry game, sometimes you're going to have that tension going back and forth. And the fact that the coaches got in the middle and separated them, you don't want to see USC's players running down the sideline in front of the UCLA. I think UCLA's players actually, showed some restraint there, because if I would have been on the field, I would have been, trying to go forward at them. And they stayed on the sideline, and maybe they were just defeated by that. But yeah, you would like to see it handled a little bit better. But good by the coaches getting in and stepping in between and separating the team, so there weren't any actual fisticuffs or anything like that. No players suspended going forward. Marquise Stepp got a push in. That was about it. You see that after almost every play. So nothing too serious there. You don't like to see Chris Steele throwing up the birds to UCLA,
I
but
didn't see that.
saying goodbye to them with a special finger. But it was, I think it was just part of the rivalry. And especially in a stadium that's empty,
I was about to
and
say,
the players have to bring all the energy and the juice, I think you could see which team had more juice even before that play. USC was going up and down, jumping up and down and stuff on the sideline, whereas UCLA was completely silent. And Ryan mentioned it earlier, but the Talanoa Hufanga interception, it went absolutely silent. Now, I was on the UCLA sideline, so I could hear their bench a lot more, but it was like not a peep out of them when that play happened. And so as USC was trying to build momentum in that second half, I think that played a big part in it, the energy that they were able to bring on the sideline.
well, sorry, Ryan. I think it's worth noting that, when there are fans in the stadium, you turn your energy towards them. Like, you go towards them. It's a recipe for disaster if the only people you have to really celebrate around are the people you just defeated. It just doesn't go well with young men. It's a recipe for disaster in that sense, and that's why I was like, I don't think it could have gone worse, in my opinion.
I think the energy thing, when this pandemic's over and people go back and look at the sports, I think that's something people are going to study and look at, because I can't tell you how weird it was if you see some great play and you're like used to like some kind of reaction, and
This
and
was your first, yeah.
you could see the USC sideline going crazy. And I'm like starting my tweet. I'm like, I think that was an interception or whatever. Well, they're cheering over there because there's no validation. It's just so you're used to you're in a stadium. You're used to the kind of reaction that you get with crowds, and there wasn't any. It was just so bizarre. And I think for the players, it has to feel different. And when they do have to bring their own energy, I don't know, you're going to crank it up a little bit. So
Yeah.
It's also weird in the game for us. I feel like there's a guessing game at times. Especially being in an away stadium, they weren't going to make announcements about anything USC. On that play, I was like, did he step out of bounds? I can't really see because there's people in the way there. I was like, so did he step out of bounds? And that's what they're checking. Like, when there's a review, they don't tell you what it is. Like, what are they checking for right now? Who knows? It's just some uncertainty up there. Whereas there'd be more chatter in the crowd, and someone would have it. Someone would have the information, whether it be from a radio broadcast or whatever. But it just seems like there's some unknowns sometimes that are a little bit different for us, when covering games.
I was telling someone it was so weird because there was so much energy at the end of the game, last second victory. Then you had the little chippiness at the end. They separate, and then it was dead silent very quickly. And you're just sitting there looking at your computer in an empty stadium, and you're like, what just happened? It was pretty crazy because usually there's a lot, 20 minutes, things are happening, bands are playing, and it was just lots of commotion and then silence. It was a little odd in that sense.
we have a question from Mario on Periscope. People ask why am I looking over here. So my screen's over here to look at the Periscope stuff, but there's also
You're also looking at Sunday
there's
Night
a game
Football.
on TV, so I'm sorry, I'm looking at that a little bit too. I'm a Steeler fan, whatever, they're losing. But okay, so Mario says, why do we praise the players for a good play, but blame coaches when the players make bad plays?
One more time, Ryan.
Why? Yeah, did you hear it, Shotgun?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Why do we blame the players?
Well, players don't get paid, first of all. So
Yeah.
if you're going to blame anyone, you're going to blame
Yeah.
the people that are getting, guys getting $5 million, blame him as opposed to the guy that's doing it for free. But a lot of it's just, if you're going to get on a player, like, this tight end didn't make a great play and you want to just hammer him. It's like, he's a student athlete. He's out there playing. He's doing his best. But you want the coaches to put him in the right position. So, the Drake London play, you can give the coaches credit for, whatever the route they set up and, he completed the pass to him. But Drake London made the play to get into the end zone. That wasn't coaching or anything. That was all him. That was him making, a tremendous play. But if you see a team come in and the players look like they don't know what they're doing, they just look out of sorts. I mean, coaching is such a big part of football. If you're in basketball, you can kind of roll the ball out there and let 5 guys just do what they want to do. It's less about strategy. Like, you really need a good strategy for football. And everyone, especially on offense, people have to be on the same page. And you can kind of tell, like, that looks like a well-coached team. Even if the athletes aren't as good, it's like they're all in sync. We saw, De La Salle High School. They were winning all those games. They didn't have all the best athletes, but they were just a really well-coached team. You can kind of see that. So it's not always that way, Mario, but if you see poor coaching, you're going to call it out. But if you say, like, that guy sucks, like, maybe he shouldn't be in there, but you don't want to say he's terrible, he has terrible hands. Maybe he does, but, he's not getting paid to do it, so he's out there doing his best.
Mm-hmm.
It's a symbiotic relationship. Do you give Fernia credit for that touchdown against USC? No, that's a Chip Kelly. He designed that play. He gets the credit for that. If a player's wide open, then you give the coaches credit. If a player breaks 7 tackles on the way to the end zone and fumbles in the process, but then gets it back, that's probably on the player.
Yeah.
When he goes full beast mode, you give the player credit for it. Designing the play to get him open. If he was wide open, then you would give it, give the credit to the coaching staff as well. Teaching the players that, if you see the single high and you got man-to-man coverage, throw it up to Tyler Vaughn. So, yeah, you give coaches credit for that. Calling an audible at the line on a run play and then throwing it to Amon-Ra St. Brown, you get the player credit for that. So
he went against the coach's wishes, and it worked.
Yep.
Yeah, UCLA had 9 guys in the box to stop the run, expecting that USC is just going to try to waste some time. Instead, and this is interesting. I wanted your guys' opinion on this. Was that a good move by him? Because if you run the ball once, run to the left, get right in the middle, and then wait, get to the line of scrimmage, and then spike it, you kick the field goal with 0 seconds left. By throwing it, he then gave UCLA a chance. This is the old adage of, like, do you score when you're running the ball? The Todd Gurley thing from a few years ago, and it's happened a couple other times. Happened to the Falcons this year, terrible. But do you score and then give the opponent a chance, or do you stop at the goal line and then try to kick the field goal to win it?
I was curious if they were going to put it in Parker Lewis's hands or foot, if you will, because he had missed one earlier and he hadn't been sure this whole season. So I was like, are you going to put it on your freshman in a rivalry game? So I think, I know on the broadcast they said you want to keep your offense on the field. So I think that was the right call by Slovis.
It's definitely the right call by Slovis.
See, I disagree.
Okay,
Really?
This is not, we're not playing this strategy game with, numbers and all this. This is a rivalry game. This is a pandemic year, college football. If Keaton Slovis can go, you know what? My dude, Amon-Ra St. Brown, is one-on-one. I'm just going to throw him the ball. Go for it, man. Like, let's go have some fun. Like, that's way more fun than, like, running to the side, to, spiking the ball and kicking a stupid field goal. 0 seconds left. We executed that perfectly. Like, okay, good. Here's your analytics A+. Screw that. Throw it to Amon-Ra St. Brown and catch a touchdown. Like, boom.
And if he throws an interception.
Whatever. Like, that's. I'm not going to blame Keaton Slovis. He had confidence. He knew his dude was one-on-one out there.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to sacrifice his body before letting that be intercepted.
You mean the guy that he was throwing to on the first interception he threw of the game?
Okay. It's different, though. Game's on the line.
I'm just saying.
So you're saying Amon-Ra St. Brown takes plays off and doesn't play full 100%
Oh, my
every play?
goodness,
I want
Shoddy.
him to have fun, and that was fun.
No, I think it was definitely fun.
Too,
But I think there's conversation there because UCLA still had 3 timeouts. USC was definitely had a big advantage by that review that happened on the Tyler Vaughn's when there was no need to review it at all. But the review stops the clock, gives USC an opportunity to set up and be ready for the next play so they can decide, do we want to run it here instead of rushing to the line, having to run it, which they were supposed to do, and then spike it and then try to kick the field goal. And would UCLA use their timeouts? There's a lot of factors that play into that one because UCLA had those 3 timeouts. But I thought it was interesting that there is the thought there, and it looked like that was USC's thought, is, hey, let's run it try to get it towards the middle. And as long as they got it to the middle, I think Parker Lewis, they were at the 8-yard line. So it's going to be a
Chip shot.
Chip shot.
Yeah.
It's going to be 25 yards for
Yeah,
field
but
goal.
that leg, you never know.
Yeah.
Take it to the moon.
He is so
I
buff,
feel
by
like-
the way. Holy crap. Like, they put the Instagram picture of him. I should have brought it up.
Oh, wait, what?
He is jacked. Parker Lewis has, like,
There's an
these-
Instagram photo came up?
there was some kind of thing. He was sitting next to the bell, like the victory bell in the locker room, and he looks like Hulk Hogan. I was like, what the hell is that? It's crazy. And also, why the
Did not
hell did
notice
they?
that.
Why did they review that play? Like, was it just such an amazing catch? Like, it was clear it was a catch. It was just
You
amazing.
can see Chip Kelly on the broadcast say it came out. So I think they thought on the way down he didn't have possession.
Oh,
So,
I mean,
yeah, after he was on the ground for like 5 seconds, they ripped the ball away from him. But it was,
yeah, it's like, is it so great? Well, let's watch that again. It was so amazing. Like, okay, fine.
that's what it kind of felt like. It's like, we know this is a catch, but look at how great this
That
is.
was
Let's see
amazing.
some
One more
extra
time.
That was
replays.
amaze balls. Let's go check it out. Yeah, like,
Alrighty, we have a caller on the line, and then I'm going to jump into rapid fire questions because we haven't fully even gotten to questions yet. Sorry
Oh, it's
about
already
that.
8
It's already
o'clock,
8
yeah.
o'clock. Yeah, so
I've
let's
done a
go
couple on the Periscope.
to. All right, well done, Ryan. Let's go to our caller on the line. I believe it is Keith from Irvine. Hello, you're live on Tunnel Vision.
Back on Tunnel Vision, second week in a row. And guys, girls, I'm glad to be talking to you. I had a great time last night. I know you guys did. Definitely hit on the over, so rent money's paid up for the next 12 months.
They cover the
Really
spread,
fun.
too,
I'm really
so-
good about that. I love that.
see, kicking
I
a
was
field
actually
goal
gonna
wouldn't have
talk
covered the
Keely.
spread. So,
Shotgun has his hat on backwards. That means he's coming to give the best analysis out there. Ryan, I love you. Talanoa. Is Talanoa going to stay with us next year? Because I think what we have, I know Elijah's going to stay. Chris Dill, he's definitely going to be at the cornerback position. If Talanoa stays, I think we have one of the best secondaries in the country. And what do you think about that 4-star corner that decommitted from UCLA, only to see the Trojans take it in dramatic fashion? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Keith.
thanks, Keith. Yeah, I think USC secondary is right up there. I mean, Talanoa he's a special player. When people start saying, like, man, he reminds me of Troy Polamalu, you know that he's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now he's got the flow going too. So
Yeah.
He
that
does.
helps with that. He's just been all over the place. Is he coming back though? I don't think you're going to see him for another year at USC, but I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing with as someone who has an injury history, a lot of times you don't want to stay for an extra year and the potential of having that injury and not being able to make any money for your career. So we'll see where he goes. He's made so many plays this year, but there is a big question about him is where exactly does he play at the next level? Is he fast enough to be a safety? Does he need to be in the box? He's a playmaker, and that's Troy Polamalu. Now, Polamalu was probably a little bit faster, but just a playmaker. You can move him around, do different things, so versatile. It's similar to a guy like Max Williams. You watch him in 7-on-7, he makes some plays and stuff, but then you watch him take on a 300-pound pulling lineman and destroy a play, and you go, that kid's a playmaker. I want more kids like that. That's the type of players you need on the team. You need some dogs like that to be out there that can be all over the place but aren't afraid to put their body on the line and go attack things. And both of those guys have been super aggressive. Talanoa has been terrific this year. So I don't think with how much he's put on tape this season, I don't think you're going to see him next year.
He's had an interception in 4 straight games. Like,
Crazy.
That is insane.
Can you
Yeah.
name the last person to do that? The answer is no, you cannot. It was Sammy Knight.
So,
Back in,
I remember him. Yeah.
Back in 2000 and something, I believe.
Yeah. Sammy Knight. He was
Or
a great
90,
safety.
90 something? It was a while back.
Alrighty, let's go into questions. First one is from Mark on YouTube who says, Washington has a defense known for shutting down the air raid, while Oregon has a really dangerous run game. Which team would be the easier matchup for USC in the title game?
This is a very good question.
Yes. Mark always has some good questions.
Ryan, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, we've seen Jimmy Lake really do a good job against Mike Leach's air raid. Certainly, it's different. I think if you can run the ball a little bit more than what Mike Leach's teams were doing, you could have more success. I think Washington looked like the better team that I've seen so far. But Oregon has that kind of USC factor. Like, there's still that danger factor. There's 5-star dudes and 4-star dudes all over the place. They're at Washington too, but not the same way as Oregon. I think Washington might be a little bit easier of a matchup. But I think they're a little different, like you said. But I think Washington might be a little bit easier. But if I'm Clay Helton, I want to play Oregon. I want to play the team that really spanked you last year and get an opportunity to get some revenge.
I think that you want to play Washington because they may be without players due to COVID.
That's true.
You know, the team that's going to have less players, and you don't know who exactly they are. If it's impact players, that could be a big potential there. If everything was even, I think that you would still go with Washington because I think I like Tyler Shelf, the quarterback at Oregon, better, and I'm going to go with the better quarterback in this one.
Yeah.
Facebook, if you want to ask questions, make sure you put them in there. Sometimes if you ask them in the beginning, they get cut off, so just a friendly reminder. A different Mark on YouTube said, if USC wins the Pac-12 Championship but isn't selected for the playoff, what's the ideal bowl game situation? It's pretty much fiesta or bust, right?
They'll be in a New Year's Six bowl. I think it depends on who is in the college football playoff and who is which conferences are taken away in that response. Or in that scenario. So I think that depends on where they would go in that situation.
But it seems like I don't like bowl projections, but it seems like everyone seems to think that's fiesta.
But everyone also thinks that Alabama will win and they'll get in, and that Notre Dame and Clemson will both get in as well. So they may be counting on those alignments to be factoring into that, and Ohio State making it. So that may play into how exactly if something else does happen, then that may play into which games have teams already designated for them, which don't.
We've gotten so many questions about this that I'm just going to go rapid fire one by one. So Shotgun, jump in here. We don't know why USC has the running back rotation they have, right?
No, we don't.
Where was Marquise Stepp? Do we know?
He didn't.
He was on the sideline.
He was available.
Played a couple snaps, but.
And he apparently got chippy with Clay Helton a little bit about when he came in the game when Vavai was out, and then they called timeout, which was weird. They kind of wasted a timeout there, and then.
It was 3rd and 1.
And then he looks like he was going to come out again, but then they put him back in the game. So it was really maybe he talked his way back in. I don't know, but it was the fact that we didn't see him until the 3rd or 4th quarter, whatever it was. That was just bizarre.
The entire running back rotation, and maybe this will answer a bunch of these questions, but it doesn't there's no rhyme or reason to it, at least right now. It may just be, putting Vi out there, and we'll see how he does. And going from there. Vi's also on the kickoff coverage unit. Marquise Stepp filled in for him on the kickoff coverage unit. So, no, I don't think either one of them was injured, at least early in the game. Stepp was not, he never was injured in the game. Vi, on the 2-point conversion, it looked like he banged up his shoulder a little bit. He's probably banged up after running for 17 times when they never, one back never has that many carries for USC. I don't know if there's anything serious. We'll find out from Clay Helton early tomorrow. Yeah. Why does Keenan Kristen get one single snap? And why is it the first snap of the 4th quarter? That just seemed like a very strange time to be like, all right, let's throw him in and use him. Stephen Carr, he's was terrific as a blitz pick-upper, in the pass protection. He's been terrific there. Vi did really well there as well at times. But Stephen Carr, there's still some hesitancy at times. Even on that swing pass that he caught, Gerard said that it looked like he was juking ghosts because I don't know if he just didn't think he would be that wide open, and it was like, where is everybody at here? There's got to be somebody else that I'm missing or whatnot. But he also didn't have very much room to run on his initial carries. He was hit at the feet as he was getting the handoff on one of his carries. So yeah, he's not going to get many yards then. He had 5 yards in this game. He ran for 5 yards, I think it was. He had 11 yards after contact. What does that tell you? That means that he's not having a bunch of open lanes to run through. Yep. Whereas Vavai Malepeai ran for I don't remember his exact number of yards per carry, but his yards after contact was 3.26, and his yards per carry was I think above 5. So
5.8.
So he's getting a little bit more room there to run. So sometimes that just is how it plays out with particular players. With someone giving something away. A couple times I looked at Marquise Stepp, and I feel like you may be able to tell when he's running versus when he's in pass protection by his eyes. Are you giving something away? Like a pitcher tipping his pitches. You don't know exactly. Maybe that's why someone doesn't have as much room as other guys do when they're in there. I don't know exactly, but there's no rhyme and reason to the rotation right now. Maybe we'll get a chance to chat with Mike Jinks. Maybe that'll be something that comes up with Graham Harrell or Clay Helton this week. But it was definitely strange this game. Normally it's more even. This game, they put in Vi and went with him, and they used Stephen Carr a little bit, and the other guys were a touch here and a touch there.
And you started with Gary Bryant Jr. getting a pitch for -6
we had a lot of questions about the pitches as well.
What the heck was that?
That was, Elijah Vera Tucker didn't get the block on that. There's this a DB screaming off from the nickel. You got to be able to basically lay out and just push him out as far as you can. They were trying to do something different, try to get a young guy, that they think is a playmaker, as we saw at the end of the game. And there was questions in the YouTube chat about, why don't they run jet sweeps with Keenan Kristen? Well, sometimes when they put somebody in there and try to do things, that's what happens. So they try to do things that are out of the norm for them, and it doesn't necessarily work. So you got to be able to do what's in the normal system. It seems like. On
the whole, though, Shotgun, do you feel like the run game is a little bit too predictable? I feel like when they go into like a tight formation, or when Eric Cromanhook goes into motion, you're like, okay, well, they're about to run the ball.
Yeah, and that's why you have to be able to use play action. We've seen how successful it can be when they do use it. Throwing the touchdown to Cromanhook against Utah. You see the man-to-man coverage that they got because of that tight formation. So if you got a tendency, you got to also be able to break that tendency and go against it and have the counter move to it. And USC has shown some counters the last couple of weeks. Whether it be throwing Amon-Ra St. Brown over and over, when teams are expect you to run it on 3rd and 1 or whatever it takes. You got to be able to do the opposite of what teams expect. And they've been predictable in their run game, but that has also opened up some of the passing opportunities recently.
We had a question from Super OC Holmes that said, can USC play Notre Dame in a bowl game?
I don't think that's going to happen because it seems like Notre Dame will be in the college football playoff. So unless USC makes a big jump. Now, something weird happens and Notre Dame beats Clemson, so now Clemson's out of the playoff. Alabama loses in the championship, so they're not number 1. So now Notre Dame's number 1, and USC some weird way sneaks into number 4. How much fun would that be?
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs?
USC versus Notre Dame in the playoff, and now you get a chance to knock off them as a number 1 seed.
Okay, let's calm down a little bit.
I'm just saying, it'd be fun.
Calm down.
I'm just all about having fun after last night, and some of these people in these questions are not having fun. Let's have a little more fun, guys. It's almost Christmas.
We had a question from Tim on YouTube who says, when was the last time there's a 2-minute or less drive and you go, USC's got this? Kessler years, question mark?
I don't know, it was like, did we skip over Sam Darnold or something?
Yeah, I was going to say.
After that Texas game, I feel like any time that Sam had the ball in the game, you're just like, they'll do something.
Maybe.
Kessler was he was the king of the dump-offs and stuff.
His last pass at US Trojan was a check down to the running back. It was a Hail Mary check down.
Yeah, it's like a Hail Mary. Oh, instead of throwing it downfield where that's the only play you can make, let's check it down. And like, wait, what? Yeah, that was... Yeah, I would go with Sam Darnold over Cody Kessler for sure.
Jasper Smith said, can you guys give us some intel on the defensive tackle transfer from Alabama? Will he start immediately if Tui Pelotu leaves for the NFL?
Not exactly. I believe the waiver is going to come across where everyone's going to be immediately eligible with transfers by the time the next football season comes around. I believe that's going to happen. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's going to happen. So I think he'll be eligible. He's a big dude, obviously, and have an opportunity, but USC has some other guys there. Does Brendan Peely come back next year? He hasn't played much this year. So I think he'll be in the rotation, and depending on what kind of fronts you have, I think that he'll be in there, though, from what we saw of him as a high schooler. Now, it's a while back, but still, high school and then what you gain in an Alabama program, I think he'll be in the mix for sure.
What does Tui Pelotu's rise mean for USC's depth chart, Shotgun?
It's been surprising. He keeps making plays, too.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he made a couple plays early, and then, offensive lineman, now you get a little tape on him. You see what his moves are, and he wouldn't make any more after that. But he just continues to make some plays. He's getting in the backfield. Huge tackle on a 3rd down play. They threw a flare out to Felton, and he tackles him basically with one arm near the sideline, and then USC gets a 4th down stop on the next play. He's making big plays, and I think that just it gives you a little bit – you can breathe a sigh of relief, I think, as a defensive staff, just knowing, hey, we got another playmaker there. Because Drake Jackson, we're going to have him for one more year, and he's gone. We got to start developing more guys. If you're that USC defensive line coaching staff, you start looking at it that way. And so getting him, and then, hey, if you get a guy that goes to the same school that Drake Jackson went to and plays a similar position that Drake Jackson went to and also happens to be the number 1 recruit in the country, then he will be right in the mix as well.
We panned the recruiting class from 2020, which deservedly so, but you get contributions from guys like Tuli, where we knew Gary Bryant Jr. would be pretty good. Parker Lewis is like legit kicker, right? I mean, he's it's pretty. So there's some contributors here. We saw a couple of the freshman offensive linemen play, against Washington State when they had to, and they held their own. So maybe there's some guys like you needed some guys to emerge from that 2020 class, because 2016 was a guy where a lot of people transferred out. The 2020 class, it just wasn't ranked very high, but getting a guy like Thule to be like a real contributor as a true freshman, I think that's a positive development.
Yeah, didn't really think there'd be any impact guys in this class besides potentially Gary Bryant as a returner, not even as a receiver, but as a returner.
Yeah.
And then Parker Lewis, didn't expect him to, but taking over the job from Chase McGrath, so give him credit there. And Thule has been a revelation on that line. And I just think that the entire defensive line has played really well at times this year.
Credit to Vic Soto. Steven on YouTube says, when the offensive line struggles or is inconsistent, is this because of coaching or recruiting / personnel?
That's usually scheme. It's not necessarily that the offensive line are just getting blown by. That has happened a couple times. One of the sacks right up the middle, that was a blow by. But more often than not, I feel like offensive line play, more than other positions, requires good coaching. And so if your offensive line is not playing, it's either scheme, so offensive coordinator coaching, or position coaching where you're not getting it done. USC has struggled, even though they've had some really talented guys, where some other schools just do a really, really good job of developing offensive linemen. USC hasn't done that consistently in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Now, there have been some really talented dudes that have gotten better, and there's some players that are getting themselves better. But consistently across the board, the unit hasn't worked as well as it probably should, with the talent that they have.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the parts. The sum hasn't been as good as it should have been. And there's a lot of communication. They do have to play. I mean, they always say it's like 5 fingers on a hand. They all have to work together. And that's been some of the problems, I think, with USC. And that, for me, comes from coaching.
Trojan Simi asked a question that people put in the chat so far, just given the news of Auburn. He said, can you please explain how the buyouts work for Clay Helton, and how does it go down this year in 2020 and next year in 2021? How much less is it next year, strategically speaking?
Yeah, so it's going to go down every year, so that's a positive if you're looking for something like that. As far as your USC, if you wanted to buy Clay Helton out, every year it goes down for sure. We reported a lot of the stuff in the War Room a couple of different times. We found out from the 2018 tax returns that Clay Helton was making about $4.6 million a year, which is about a 40% increase of what his previous contract was. We were told it was going through 2023. So, this is 2020, 3 more years on the deal, 2020, 21, 2 and 23. We had heard that there's probably, the typical things you would have were increases for those contracts. Estimating that he's probably making $5 million a year now, and that'll go up over the next couple of years too. And USC also has, for any kind of buyout, there's a benefits package, like a fringe benefits sort of thing. So if you have 2 years left on your deal, it's not just, and your deal's worth $100,000, it's not just $100,000 that was worth on your deal. There's also, you would assume, a percentage of that as fringe benefits that USC would have to pay out. So there's even more, about a third more than whatever the contract is. So we were estimating it's probably, after the 2021 season, $13-14 million to buy Clay Helton out. If you were going to do it now, it's closer to 20. So, yeah, I mean, it's a significant amount of money. Wasn't a favorable contract that Lynn Swann and Max Nikias gave Clay Helton for USC. It was obviously very favorable for Clay Helton.
While we're on the topic, it was expected, but what were your thoughts, Ryan, on Kevin Sumlin?
Yeah, 12 games in a row you lose, and we talked about 50-0 with UCLA. Losing 70-7 to your rival is pretty rough. What we had heard, he had a pretty decent buyout too. I mean, I don't know if it was 10 million, but I think it was getting close to that. I didn't hear all the real numbers on what his buyouts were, but
I think I heard 8.
8, yeah. So something, but for Arizona, it's a significant number. You don't want to have to do something like that. And their athletic department's hurting just like all the rest of them. What we were hearing was basically they're looking for reasons to not fire Sumlin. And unfortunately, if you watch that game, Arizona's been feisty at times. They played USC pretty tough. They looked like they had given up. It looked like they didn't want to be there. And you hear from these kids a lot where they're sacrificing so much, like Keely talked about. They can't go see their families on Thanksgiving. They're basically in this kind of pseudo bubble. And it's tough on them, but they really want to play football. They're excited to play football, and they're willing to sacrifice. It looked like Arizona, the players were kind of done sacrificing. They just didn't want to do it anymore. They had given up. And, man, just everything Arizona State was doing, I think it was like 7 turnovers. They looked terrible. Grant Goodell comes back, their quarterback. He gets benched. So I think Kevin Sumlin didn't give them a choice. I think they had to fire him at that point. And now we'll see, could they go after like a Todd Orlando or a Graham Harrell, or who are they going to bring in? It'll be really interesting to see if USC gets involved. If they're going after any USC assistants, or where they bring in, because there's been some good coaching hires, I think, in the Pac-12. That year that Sumlin was hired, he was really the only failure. Like, I think Jonathan Smith's doing a really good job. Herm Edwards has done a good job. Chip Kelly's kind of turned things around. That was a pretty good class. Sumlin, who had the best resume, well, outside of Chip Kelly, he failed. He failed miserably there. So I don't know what didn't work, but it did not work.
I think I saw on the Arizona message boards that a booster actually stepped up and paid the buyout.
Okay, so that would make sense. But you almost had no choice. Like, you had to figure out a way. Like, all right, we don't want to do it, but let's figure out a way.
Yeah, when you lose 70-7 to your rival, there's nothing left.
And it's the 12th loss in a row. Like, your 12th loss in a row is 70-7.
And everyone knew it wasn't going to be pretty this year when you lose you basically lost your entire linebackers. You got all walk-on linebackers for the most part. Like, you're not going to be able to sustain being competitive when you're having, when basically whole position groups are walk-ons, which is why there's the rules in with COVID. If you fall under a certain amount of scholarship players, then the game can be not played. Yeah.
Apparently, USC is opened up as a 7-point favorite against Washington, just so you know.
That's interesting. I mean, we've seen people come back from COVID and not be as, they're not whole. They're
not as sharp.
Yeah. So
actually, I talked with a USC basketball source about this, and there's concerns. They have the positive test today, canceled their Pac-12 opener. If they have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks, they felt really good about where they were right now, but where are you going to be in 2 weeks if you're not able to practice for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
and it's a big concern.
That's a good point. Raphael on Facebook said, "Do you think Vavai Malpai will return next year or possibly declare?"
I think he'll come back.
I don't know what his NFL future would be. I mean, I don't know that he's just really, he's good at everything, but he's not great at anything. So a guy like that could find a place in the NFL as a special teamer and do some different things, but he's, running backs, it's hard to make it in the NFL as a running back, especially for any extended amount of time. So, I think he's already got his degree though. So, and maybe depending on where he is with a graduate degree, not real sure. Congratulations to all the guys. There's a lot of new graduate patches on uniforms this past game. So congratulations to all those guys. There was, I guess, the first semester grades came through. So a lot of guys.
Yeah, the semester's over. Yeah. They ended it early. So there you go. Jeff says, with the decommits recently, is USC going to fill spots or save them for next year?
No, I think they're going to be filling those.
They're going to try to. But it is interesting because basically 2020 and 2021 classes get combined. And with the transfer rules where you could get people in right away, some people might leave some open spots. So I think they're going to try to fill them. But if they don't, they at least you'll have some spots that you could actually use.
I don't think you're going to see any late offers go out like we've seen in the last couple of years with certain positions. The quarterback is the one position where they really need an extra body. They got Miller Moss committed. Jake Garcia has decommitted. Don't expect him to come back in the class. Jackson Dart, they're really trying to add him to the class. They need another body there. If they don't get Dart, they'll probably go in the transfer portal. But I don't think you're going to see any late offers where they've done that the last couple of years with like Jaden DeLaura or Dylan Gabriel or the kid that went to Boise State last year. So I don't think you're going to see that just because of so many unknowns, like Ryan said. And there's so many guys in the transfer portal right now. Just with how things were dealt with at certain schools, kids didn't like it or did like it. The way the playing time played out, some kids just want to be closer to home. A lot of players in the transfer portal, so that is another option as well.
Yeah, really hard to social distance in the transfer portal. It's very crowded in there.
So, we had a question from Tim who says, with 2 minutes to go in the game, who do you guys take, Darnold or Slovis? He would take Slovis. Tim.
That's tough. Darnold can
Who do you have receiving?
Okay, here's the problem. Slovis has a much better scheme behind him. Like Darnold, if Darnold had a good scheme and those same receivers and stuff, it's like I think he would do those things too. But the play breaks down and Darnold just do it on his own. He'd figure out something and make it happen on his own. Where Slovis has like actual, good plays behind him. So I'd probably still go Darnold.
But Slovis has great pocket awareness, pocket mobility. That's a really tough one. I'm going to take whichever offensive line is playing better for one. But I think you take Darnold just because the play breaks down. He can still run and pick up a first down for you and keep the clock moving because that's so big in college football is getting to the first down marker to stop the clock. So I'm going to take Darnold in this one.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I think I'm going to take Darnold. Also because I feel like the offensive line was better around Darnold.
Let's just say all the same. Just like give him the same offensive line, the same receivers. It's just a quarterback.
Shotgun knows how indecisive I am. I'm going to say Darnold.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of it.
Or you could just take Liner, whatever.
Sure, that was an option, but sure. Hip-hop lover John said, will Talanoa Hufanga be an All-American?
I think so. I mean, he doesn't even have the games, but the numbers he's putting up, I think, are going to be too much to ignore. I don't know if he'll be a first-team All-American just because of, not having the full slate that some of the SEC teams and whatnot are having. But I think he's going to make at least somebody. He's going to make somebody's team. I mean, his tackles per game and stuff, and 4 straight games with interceptions. He's forcing fumbles. He's had multiple forced fumbles. He's doing it all for USC right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of lists. He'll make some of them for sure. Especially if he's had 4 picks in a row. That's something you can hey, this safety has 4 interceptions in a row. Okay, that's something that you can. If you're voting for that stuff, you're like, oh, okay, that sounds good.
Okay, I just realized it's almost 8:30, so we're going to go actual rapid fire, okay, guys?
Okay.
Coley says at 5-0, USC normally at this time of the season would be halfway. Considering they would have their other half of the season to play, do you feel that the Trojans would be trending up or down?
They're playing better, but it's just the competition hasn't been great. So who's on the schedule in the other half? Is it another half that's like the first half, or is it Oregon, Notre Dame, and Alabama in the second? Then that'd be different. But they're playing better for sure. Are they playing good enough to beat elite type of teams? I don't know. We haven't seen them play one this year, so it's hard to say.
They're trending up.
Yeah. I would say at least the defense is. I think there's something to be said for the time that they didn't have in spring. You can see that I think more experience each week is helping the team.
Yeah.
And they're trending upward. Well done, Chuck, and I'm proud of you. You tried your best. D.D. Diego said, if Washington won the Pac-12 North and championship game is North Champ versus South Champ, then why doesn't USC take the Pac-12 if for some reason Washington can't play?
It's a valid question. So they just mark it as, hey, USC is the champion, but we're still going to play an extra game. Maybe they could do that, but it's a weird year. That's why. Because all chaos is gone. Not everybody's played the same number of games and stuff, so that's why it's not going to be that way.
Yeah, it is weird that you're kind of punishing the team that has the best record in the Pac-12 by playing on a short week 2 weeks in a row and, playing a team that's coming off a bye in the championship game. And maybe another team I haven't prepared for too. So it's not ideal, but it is #2020. So that's where we are.
We had condolences in the chat for you, Ryan, considering the Steelers just lost. So there you go.
Bummer.
And Don't Shoot the Messenger, SNS Productions said, why does this offense suck so much more than last year? Question mark.
That's a lot. There's
a
way
lot.
more question marks than that. But I think the biggest thing is that defenses have tape on them now. They played them last year. They know what to expect. And as Graham Harrell has so vividly told us many, many times, that it only takes so many practices to put this offense in. It's not a complicated offense. It's an execution-based. So, if you don't execute, then you don't perform. And USC, I think defenses have figured out different ways to attack it. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, and it's not like they're terrible. It's like, Slovis went from super elite to really freaking good. He's just a little bit more inconsistent. He's not, he hasn't been as sharp all the time as he was last year, I would say.
Seth had a good question on YouTube. He says, what type of things will have to happen for USC to get into the CFP?
Chaos.
Yeah. Sharknado somewhere. I don't know. Something like that.
I don't know about that, but, Alabama.
Sharknado would do it.
You need Alabama to win, probably. You need Clemson to lose. You need Ohio State potentially to lose. So then there's 2 teams in and there's 2 open spots. So then what happens after that? That could be a big question.
Florida losing was good. That helps.
Yeah, that definitely helped. And, thank Marco Wilson, former USC recruit Marco Wilson, for tossing a shoe in that one to give him a chance.
we had multiple questions about the significance of last night's victory for USC in their recruiting pursuits. How much does that matter? And someone said, would that persuade Corey Foreman at all?
No. One game doesn't matter.
One game doesn't matter. However, I think Gerard put it really well in his recruiting angle piece. If you're a VIP member, you can read that. He's done one each week this season. That it gives them a lot more momentum to close this class well. Instead of, they were down 28-10 and people were going, oh, what's going to happen with USC? Then I think that this last few days, everyone is excited. Like, you can call up a recruit, man, did you see how we did? If we just had you, then we would never been in that position. But look at the fight this team has, blah, 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 whatever. That can be your recruiting pitch. But just excitement and momentum is something going forward. And, they're seeing development at positions like Corey Foreman's.
I need to personally apologize to Sheldon on Facebook, who had the game taped Sunday Night Football in order to watch this, and I just spoiled the ending. So I apologize. Didn't mean to do that. And then one last question from 1960s Kid. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
I'm going to say, yeah, I just like Die Hard, but the debate's all funny. But, yeah, I'll go Christmas movie. So
I think it can be.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Oh, wow.
It's so good. They have Bruce Willis is doing like a commercial for like AutoZone or
like
something
a Die Hard battery or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's like breaks through the I think it's like an AutoZone commercial. Maybe it's Die Hard battery commercial. I don't know, but
Clearly it didn't work on you because you don't know what it's.
I don't know what it is, but it's
a
pretty
Die
cool.
Hard batteries commercial.
Okay.
Die Hard is back. That's the whole premise.
Yeah, but the marketing didn't work for Ryan. Alrighty. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Just so everyone knows, just to reiterate it, we will be back on Wednesday, 7 p.m. for a Tunnel Vision Palooza early signing day recap and previewing the Pac-12 title game. We will be delirious. We will be tired, but we will be here talking to you guys because we love it. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But like I said, guys, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I'd just like to thank everybody. I know we had a lot of people on. I think we had like over 400 people on YouTube alone, which is great. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. It's been crazy for all of you. It's been crazy for all of us. We didn't think there was going to be a season. You sort of put one together. You cobble this thing together. Like, you built it out of Legos, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, it doesn't look like the box, but we got something here. It's pretty good. So we're trying. We're trying to keep up with everything. It's just a juggling act. Oh, this game's canceled. Or they're going to play. They might play this team the championship. They might play this team. It's very weird. So we're trying to roll with the punches, and we appreciate you rolling with us throughout the whole thing. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like the one time I tried to put together a model car, and it wasn't a snap together. It was like the glue kind.
Oh,
you got done, and you're just like, it doesn't really roll, but it's all right.
Yeah. Is that your final thought?
That's
Shotgun?
2020. Again, be happy. It's a fun time. Be thankful for the people around you, and we're thankful for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I need to apologize to Andrew who called in. Our intern kind of messed up the controls, so you got dropped, but it wasn't on purpose. So apologize for that.
It wasn't on purpose, and it wasn't me. Just wanted to...
No. Micah wanted me to put it out into the ether that it wasn't. We weren't being malicious. So there you go. Yeah. That's going to wrap it up. Like I said, Tunnel Vision Palooza on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Stay tuned for that. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. That's Shotgun. That's Ryan. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.